You can't change your partner. You can beg, plead, threaten, or cry. You can twist yourself into 1,000 shapes, shrink your voice, or scream until your throat bleeds. But if they are not ready to meet themselves, they will never meet you, because love is not a rescue mission. It's not a rehabilitation center for the emotionally unavailable. It's not a stage where you perform worthiness in hopes of being chosen. Love is a mirror. It reflects who you are. And if you don't like what you see, the work isn't to polish the mirror. The work is to change the reflection. Carl Jung once said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. So when your partner's silence enrages, you ask, where am I silent with myself? When their distance wounds, you ask, where have I abandoned my own needs? When their chaos consumes, you ask, what part of me is addicted to the storm? Because the truth is, we don't attract what we want. We attract what we are. And if you are wounded, you will find someone who picks at your scabs. If you are healing, you will find someone who holds space for your growth. But if you are whole, you will not settle for fragments. So stop trying to change them. Change yourself. Heal the parts of you that believe love must be earned. Release the belief that suffering is a prerequisite for connection. Let go of the fantasy that if you just love them harder, they will finally see you. Because the most radical act of love is choosing yourself. It's walking away from what hurts, even when it feels familiar. It's setting boundaries, even when your voice shakes. It's saying, I deserve more, and believing it. You can't change your partner, but you can change the part of you that tolerates less than you deserve. You can change the narrative that says love is pain. You can change your life. And when you do, you'll find that the right partner doesn't need to be changed. They meet you where you are, whole and healing, ready to build something real. So stop waiting for them to change. Start becoming the person you've been waiting for. Because the love you seek starts with you. Because the love you seek doesn't arrive wrapped in validation. It arrives in moments when you finally validate yourself. When you stop begging to be chosen and start choosing your own peace. When you stop hoping they'll wake up and start awakening to your own worth. You can't force someone to see you if they're committed to blindness. You can't force someone to grow if they worship their comfort zone. You can't force someone to feel for you what they refuse to feel within themselves. And the more you try to rescue them, the more you abandon yourself. So let them be. Let them stay small if they choose. Let them remain in the shallows if they fear the deep. But you were never built for the shallow end. You are depth. You are so. You are fire and water, light and shadow. And you will not be tamed by someone who only wants your silence. Carl Jung taught us this. The unconscious will rule your life and you will call it fate. That means your patterns, your attractions, your stories, they're not destiny. They're mirrors. They're invitations to look within and wake up. So wake up. You are not here to prove your lovability. You are not here to endure love that makes you question your sanity. You are not here to dim your brilliance so someone else can shine. You are here to transform, to take your pain and alchemize it into clarity, to take your loneliness and turn it into self-intimacy, to take the betrayal and use it as the foundation of unshakable self-respect. The more you shift within, the less you tolerate chaos outside. Because now you know, you don't fix someone to feel safe. You fix the part of you that accepted brokenness as normal. And once you do that, once you begin to truly see yourself, you stop chasing love that requires your self-abandonment. You stop performing for crumbs. You stop trading authenticity for attachment. You walk with power. You speak with peace. You love without losing yourself. And eventually, you won't even feel anger toward the ones who couldn't meet you. You'll feel gratitude because they were the catalyst. They pushed you into the fire you were always meant to walk through. And on the other side, you rose, not bitter, not broken, but reborn, because you didn't change them. You changed you. And that was enough to change everything. And that was enough to set you free. Because the truth is, the one who hurts you isn't the one who breaks you. It's the part of you that stays. It's the part of you that bends, contorts, compromises, explains. It's the part of you that hopes love will fix what only you can confront. You weren't supposed to lose yourself in them. You were supposed to find yourself through the fire they lit beneath you. They weren't your soulmate. They were your shadow's invitation to heal, to evolve, to stop romanticizing dysfunction and start honoring discernment. It's not that they didn't love you. It's that they loved you with the same broken compass they used to love themselves. And you were trying to turn that compass toward you healing when they couldn't even see true north. Let that truth liberate you. You don't need closure from someone who was never open. You don't need an apology from someone who lacks the capacity to be accountable. You don't need their validation to confirm your worth, because real healing doesn't come when they change. It comes when you stop needing them to. It comes when you choose your growth over their approval. It comes when you finally say, I love you, but not more than I love myself. And that shift, that quiet, powerful reclamation of your soul, is where everything begins to change. Your boundaries become sacred. Your time becomes intentional. Your energy becomes guarded not out of fear, but out of reverence. You begin to attract from a place of fullness, not desperation, not hunger, not emptiness. And love starts to look different. It starts to feel like alignment, not anxiety. Like peace, not pursuit. Like expansion, not exhaustion. That's the reward for choosing yourself. That's the reward for not trying to fix them. That's the reward for doing the only thing you were ever meant to do. Grow beyond the version of you who believed love meant stay. You can't change your partner, but you can become someone who no longer accepts partners who refuse to grow. And that version of you, they don't beg, they don't chase, they don't perform. They embody, they attract, they choose, because they've learned the most sacred truth of all. Healing isn't about fixing what's broken around you. It's about no longer tolerating what broke you in the first place. And once you stop tolerating what broke you, you start building what heals you. You build a life rooted in self-respect, not sacrifice. You build relationships that feel like freedom, not obligation. You build conversations filled with presence, not pretending. You build habits aligned with your future, not your wounds. And slowly, everything begins to transform. Because you've shifted from trying to survive love to creating it. Not with force, not with fear, but with truth. And the truth is, you were never too much. You were never not enough. You were just in a space that didn't recognize your light because they hadn't yet faced their darkness. But now you have. You've stood in the storm. You've walked through the fire. You faced your own shadows and called them by name. And you emerged not perfect, but real. Not polished, but powerful. Not dependent, but sovereign. You no longer need to be understood by those who choose confusion. You no longer crave love that costs you your sanity. You no longer beg for closeness that comes with conditions, because you become whole, not through someone else, but through yourself. And that's what real love requires. It's not about losing yourself in another. It's about finding someone who reflects the truth you've already claimed, not someone who completes you, someone who meets you at your level, in your power, without apology. That kind of love can't be chased. It's not built on fear or fantasy. It's not manipulated into existence. It's magnetized by who you've become. And who you've become is not desperate, not wounded, not waiting. You've become someone who chooses peace over potential, energy over history, wholeness over habits. You've become someone who doesn't try to change their partner, because you've already changed the only person you ever had the power to change, yourself. And that's the beginning of everything sacred, everything lasting, everything true. That's when life starts to open. That's when the love you deserve starts to arrive. Because now you're no longer searching from a wound. You're leading from your worth. And when you lead from worth, you no longer audition for love. You no longer play roles in hopes of being kept. You no longer negotiate your needs just to avoid being alone. Because now you understand. Loneliness is not the absence of someone else. It's the absence of your own presence. And when you come home to yourself, even solitude feels sacred. So you stop clinging. You stop begging. You stop trying to resurrect a connection that died the moment you betrayed your own heart to maintain it. You no longer chase what could be. You honor what is. And what is right now is this. You are no longer who you used to be. You are no longer the person who tolerated confusion disguised as chemistry. You are no longer the version of yourself who confused drama for depth. Because you have faced your truth. And your truth is this. You cannot be loved properly by someone who is still at war with themselves. You cannot heal next to someone who refuses to even look in the mirror. And you cannot grow inside a cage, no matter how much you dress it up as love. So you set yourself free. You cut the cord, not from hatred, but from honor. Not from anger, but from awareness. Because love without growth is just attachment. And love without respect is just survival. And you didn't come here to survive love. You came here to expand through it. To become more, not less. To rise, not shrink. To shine, not disappear. So no, you can't change your partner. But you can stop betraying yourself for their comfort. You can stop living in the potential of what they might one day become. You can stop asking someone to meet you in a place they have no intention of going. And instead, you rise. You walk forward. You lead yourself out of the familiar and into the unknown. Not because it's easy, but because it's true. Because finally, you've remembered who you are. And that kind of remembrance makes settling impossible. That kind of remembrance makes self-abandonment unbearable. And that kind of remembrance is what makes you unshakable. Because an unshakable soul doesn't beg for reciprocity. It expects it, effortlessly, silently, and with unwavering conviction. You no longer write love letters to deaf ears. You no longer water gardens in someone else's desert, hoping they'll one day see your worth. Because worth isn't proven, it's embodied. And now you embody it so completely that anyone who can't see it reveals their own blindness, not your lack of value. You no longer plead to be heard. You found the strength to speak once clearly and then walk away from the silence that follows. That's what happens when you become whole. You no longer need someone to complete your sentences. You've become fluent in your own truth. You've become anchored in your own being. And from that place, you see it all so clearly. You never wanted to change them because you hated them. You wanted to change them because you loved them. But love without willingness is nothing more than beautiful suffering. And suffering isn't love, it's loyalty to what refuses to grow. So you release them, not as punishment, as liberation for you, and for them. Because maybe the version of you that loved them was also the version of you that didn't fully love yourself. And now that version is gone, burned by the fire of awakening, reborn in the clarity of your own becoming. This is what real self-love looks like. It's not bubble baths and affirmations. It's not waiting for others to rise. It's choosing to rise alone, if that's what your soul demands. It's breaking your own heart to honor your healing. It's letting go of what once made you feel alive, when it's now what's slowly killing your spirit. And yes, it hurts. God, it hurts to walk away from someone you once would have given everything to save. But you've learned, you finally learned. You can't save someone who's committed to their own sinking. You can't heal someone who uses your love as a bandage for wounds they refuse to clean. And you've cleaned yours. You've sat with your pain. You've faced your patterns. You've chosen discomfort over denial, growth over attachment, truth over fantasy. That's not weakness. That's spiritual power. So no, you can't change your partner. But you've done something even greater. You've changed your relationship with yourself. You've stopped choosing pain and calling it passion. You've stopped calling inconsistency mystery. You've stopped calling chaos chemistry. Now, you choose peace. Now, you choose presence. Now, you choose love that doesn't ask you to lose yourself. And when love does come again, and it will find you not as a performer, not as a fixer, but as a force, unapologetic, unshakable, unforgettably you. And that kind of love, it won't ask you to dim your light. It won't mistake your strength for threat. It won't demand your silence for harmony. Because it won't be based on performance, it will be based on presence. The kind of love you now attract is born from truth, not trauma. It doesn't feed on fear or scarcity. It grows in the light of two people who have both done the work, who have met their shadows, who have faced their own lies, who come to each other not to fill a void, but to share a fullness. Because only when you are full within yourself can love become a celebration, not a negotiation. This is where the old story ends. The story where you stayed because you hoped they would finally choose you. The story where you believed your love could be the medicine for someone who refused to heal. The story where you traded your peace for proximity. Where you stayed because walking away felt like failure. But now you know it's not failure to leave what harms you. It's not failure to choose yourself. It's not failure to admit that love isn't always enough, not when it lacks accountability, respect, or safety. It is strength. It is sovereignty. It is sacred clarity. And from here forward, everything you choose must align with that clarity. If it doesn't, you will bless it, release it, and return to your center. Because now your center is home. Your truth is non-negotiable. Your peace is priceless. And your love, your beautiful, boundless, healing love, will never again be wasted trying to save someone from themselves. You know now, you can't change your partner, but you can choose again. You can love differently. You can love yourself first. And when you do, when you truly embody that self-love as a lifestyle, not a buzzword, you stop attracting lessons in pain. You start attracting reflections of your power, your peace, your purpose. And that is what real love was always meant to be. Not someone who changes because you beg them to, but someone who meets you in the mirror of your own healed heart, looks you in the eye and says, I don't need to change to be enough for you, because you never needed me to. You only needed me to be whole, just like you are. And that is the love that was waiting for you all along. On the other side of your courage, on the other side of your boundaries, on the other side of the moment you finally said, I can change you, but I can change everything by changing me. And when you finally make that change, not out of anger, not out of revenge, but out of deep reverence for your soul, you don't just heal from a relationship. You heal the part of you that kept repeating it. You break a cycle, you rewrite the pattern. You become the interruption to generations of inherited silence, codependence, and self-abandonment. You become the one who ends the story of shrinking to fit. You become the one who ends the story of fixing others while ignoring yourself. You become the one who ends the story of needing someone to choose you, because now you have already chosen yourself. And that choice, that quiet, irreversible choice, it echoes in your boundaries. It echoes in the people you now attract. It echoes in the peace you no longer apologize for. It echoes in the love you give and the love you receive. Because now, love is no longer a performance. It's not a prize. It's not a battlefield. It's not a chain. It is truth. It is freedom. It is the sacred dance of two whole souls who do not complete each other, but expand each other. And to get there, you had to walk away. You had to let go. You had to grieve the fantasy and embrace the reality. You had to become the kind of person who no longer waits for permission to be free. So now you don't settle. You don't explain. You don't shrink. You don't chase. You become. You rise. You choose. And when love meets you now, it won't be confused by your fire. It won't fear your truth. It won't resist your clarity. It will recognize you. Because finally, you no longer seek to be saved. You no longer need to be changed. You've already done the work. And you don't just know what love is. You've become the kind of person who can actually hold it. Because real love isn't about what you can get from someone. It's about what you can create together when both people show up as their truest, most honest selves. No masks, no manipulation, no control disguised as care. Just truth and presence, and two people who have done the inner work to carry their own weight, so no one has to bleed for connection. This is the love your soul was starving for all along. Not the fantasy, not the chaos, not the drama dressed up as destiny, but the real thing. Love that doesn't ask you to lose yourself. Love that celebrates your wholeness. Love that shows up with action, not just apology. With consistency, not just charisma. With integrity, not just intensity. And you're no longer afraid of being alone, because you are no longer lonely within yourself. You fill the void with truth. You've sealed the cracks with consciousness. You've replaced the ache with awareness. So, even if love never shows up again, you will never abandon yourself the way you once did. That is your liberation. That is your return. That is your arrival. And if love does come, and it will not find you waiting. It will find you walking, living, leading, breathing in alignment with the highest version of yourself. Because you don't need love to save you. You are the salvation. You are the miracle. You are the evidence of healing no one else could give you. You were never here to fix anyone. You were here to become the kind of person who no longer betrays themselves to belong. You can't change your partner, but you can change the kind of love you allow. You can change the standards you live by. You can change the story you tell about what you're worthy of. And when you do, you don't just change your relationship. You change your entire life. So now you stand at the edge of everything you once tolerated and everything you never allow again. Not because you've hardened, but because you've awakened. Not because you've stopped loving, but because you finally learned to love yourself first. You can't change your partner, but you've changed your center. You've changed your energy. You've changed your entire frequency. And now, the world must meet you where you are, or be left behind, because your time is sacred. Your peace is sacred. Your love is sacred. And you will no longer place it in the hands of someone who hasn't earned it with presence, purpose, and equal power. This is your moment to rise, to remember, to reclaim every ounce of yourself you once gave away just to be seen. You don't need to be seen anymore. You need to be met. And you will be by someone who doesn't want to change you, by someone who mirrors the truth you now live. But even if they never come, you are no longer waiting, because now, finally, beautifully, fully, you are enough. You are home, and you have become the love you were searching for all along. There comes a moment when the weight of your past no longer fits the shoulders you've grown into. You feel it. That subtle war between who you were and who you're becoming. The pull of old memories trying to convince you that change is betrayal, that you owe something to the pain, that the scars are debts unpaid. But listen closely. The past is not your sentence. It's not a cage. It's not a mirror meant to reflect back your limits. It is only a page, a chapter. And no chapter, no matter how dark or defining, deserves to dictate the entire narrative of your existence. Because you are not the mistakes you made when you didn't know better. You are not the reflection of the people who couldn't love you. You are not the echo of those who abandoned you when you were still learning to stand. What you are is unwritten, and that terrifies the world. The world worships predictability. It craves the comfort of labels, of statistics, of patterns that trap souls into neat little boxes. But you were not born to be contained. You were born to rupture the expectations of those who tried to measure your worth by your wounds. There is a fire in your breath the past cannot smother, a vision in your spirit no memory can erase. But first you must choose it. You must bury the myth that the person you were is the person you must remain. You must burn the mask of shame that tells you evolution is a form of disloyalty. Because the truth is this: letting go of who you were is not abandoning yourself. It is finally meeting yourself. Let the old story tremble in your wake. You've been imprisoned long enough by the idea that identity is static, that because you once played the role of the victim or the failure or the villain, you must always be confined to that role. But life is not a script, it's not a courtroom. It's a wild, unfolding, chaotic dance of possibility. And your past was only rehearsal. What comes next is real, but only if you dare to step out of the narrative you've rehearsed in your head. This is where the syphoria begins, that internal fracture between who you pretend to be and who your soul is screaming to become. It's why anxiety arises when you're quiet, why you feel restless in rooms where you're supposed to belong. Because deep down, you know, you were never meant to be this tamed. You were never meant to be this apologetic for your own power. You were never meant to shrink to make others comfortable in their delusions. You were born to unravel illusions, to disrupt, to carve a new psychological identity not built on trauma, but on transcendence. This is not rebellion for the sake of rebellion. This is psychological sovereignty. Carl Jung wrote that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are, not who your parents programmed, not who society rewarded, not who your past mistakes distorted, but the raw, electrifying, untamed essence that existed before the world handed you a mask and said, wear this if you want to survive. But survival is not the highest goal. You were not made merely to survive your story, you were made to rewrite it. Your mindset is the pen, and if that mindset is still bound to guilt, to resentment, to the gravitational pull of regret, then you're not writing, you're recycling. You are the author now. But authors must unlearn before they write anew. They must challenge the inherited beliefs that whisper, you're not enough. It's too late. You'll always be that broken version of yourself. Lies. Propaganda written by fear. And fear has no imagination. But you do. You have the ability to believe differently, think differently, see yourself not as a broken statue to be mourned, but as molten potential waiting for the fire of self-respect to reshape you. Because belief is not just mental, it's spiritual architecture. You build it brick by brick with every decision you make. And the first decision you must make is to stop defending a story that no longer honors you. Stop romanticizing your suffering. Stop quoting your failures as if they were scripture. The past is not sacred. It's not divine. It's not untouchable. It is only information. And information only becomes identity when you bow to it. Stand up. You are not your worst day. You are not your darkest thought. You are not the sum total of everything they did to you when you didn't have the power to fight back. You are the power now. So get clear. Clarity is a rebellion. It is cutting through the noise, the nostalgia, the neurotic obsession with who hurt who and when. Clarity is not about erasing the past. It's about refusing to let it obscure your future. It is stepping into the present and asking one terrifying question. Who am I without my pain? And the answer? You are whoever you dare to become. But dare is the key. Clarity without courage is paralysis. Vision without motion is hallucination. So see it clearly, the version of you who walks without shame, who speaks with gravity, who no longer asks for permission to exist. See them, then become them. Because vision is not a dream, it is a prophecy. But it will never come true if you keep watering the weeds of your former self. You have to be radical, not in noise, but in discipline. This is where most collapse. They wait for motivation to save them. But motivation is weak. It's a spark. Discipline is the flame. And if you don't learn how to burn for yourself, you'll always beg others to light your way. Discipline is devotion. It's choosing what aligns with your future over what comforts your wounds. It's saying no when your old self wants to crawl back into the familiar. It's waking up with purpose, even when your mind is screaming for permission to stay the same. Because the real war is not external. It's not you versus them. It's you versus the version of you that wants to stay small. Kill that version. Let it die with dignity. Thank it for getting you here. But do not resurrect it. Do not mourn it. Do not make it holy. The only sacred thing now is forward. Forward into action. Into movement that reflects belief. Because action is the true alchemy. It transforms thought into embodiment, vision into reality. You cannot think your way into a new life. You must live it, bleed for it, grind for it, sacrifice for it. But don't you dare settle. You've already done that. Settled for mediocrity, for numbness, for identities you never chose. Not anymore. This is the uprising of your own becoming, of your own revolution. Not the kind that screams in the streets, the kind that whispers in your soul, relentless, volcanic, rising in silence until the mask cracks and the truth pours out. This is the kind of action that doesn't seek applause. It seeks alignment, a sacred union between who you are and what you do. No more pretending, no more performance. Because when you move in truth, the world begins to move around you. But first, you must face the truth you've been avoiding, the truth that your comfort zone is not safety. It is decay. It is the coffin where your potential goes to rot, quietly, politely, unnoticed by everyone except your own soul. And your soul is done whispering. It is roaring now. It wants gratitude, not as a forced affirmation, but as a primal recognition that you are still here breathing scarred but undefeated. That despite the hells you walked through, something inside you refused to die. Honor that. Gratitude is not weakness. It is fuel. It reminds you that every second you're alive, you are not your past. You are the architect of something that has never existed before, the next version of you. But architecture requires adaptability, the willingness to let go of blueprints that no longer make sense, to demolish structures built on fear, on ego, on inherited dysfunction. You were raised by people who were surviving their own psychological wars. Don't make their trauma your temple. Break the lineage of unconsciousness. Become the ancestor your bloodline has never known. The one who didn't just endure, but transmuted. But this path demands resilience, because the world doesn't celebrate your growth. Not at first. The world loved the broken version of you, the predictable version, the compliant, self-doubting, approval-chasing shell who made everyone else feel more secure in their own delusion. But the moment you rise, you become a threat to every friend who knew you as insecure, to every partner who needed you weak, to every environment that depended on your silence. They will try to pull you back, guilt you, gaslight you, say you've changed like it's a crime. Wear that accusation like a crown, because change is not betrayal. It is liberation. You're not responsible for who people thought you were. You're only responsible for who you choose to become now. Let them choke on their expectations. You have work to do. You have chapters to write that don't begin with, "Once upon a time I was broken." Because you are not a sob story. You are not a cautionary tale. You are a force. And this force learns not just information, but transformation. Learning how to unattach, how to rewire, how to recognize that the thoughts running through your mind are not divine commandments. They are echoes, programs, reflexes. Challenge them. Burn them if they lie. Because you cannot heal in a mind that believes your pain is who you are. You are not the trauma. You are the warrior who survived it. And now it's time to go beyond survival, into creation, into destiny, into that sacred space where your past bows to your future, where your wounds stop being identities and become instruments, where every scar becomes a signature not of what broke you, but of what built you, because this is your renaissance, not a return, but a resurrection, not a comeback, but a coronation. The world hasn't seen what you're about to become, because even you haven't met that version yet, but they're real, and they're waiting on the other side of your excuses. So let the old version of you grieve if it must, but don't you dare go back to mourn. The story has moved on, and so must you. This time, you move without looking back. Not because the past doesn't matter, but because it no longer commands you. You move with the weight of 1,000 false identities falling off your back. You move with the quiet rage of someone who has finally realized their pain wasn't punishment, it was preparation. You move like the storm the world tried to suppress but couldn't destroy. You move like truth finally unleashed. This is what they never told you. The system doesn't care about your soul. It wants conformity, obedience, sedation. It wants you numb, scrolling, consuming, doubting, because a soul on fire cannot be managed. It cannot be monetized. It cannot be manipulated. But that's what you are now, a fire that refuses to be extinguished. And from that fire, purpose is forged. Not the cliche, not the Instagram version, not the watered-down dream board fantasy, real purpose. The kind that wakes you up in the middle of the night because you know you were not born just to pay bills and heal from what other people did to you. You were born to disrupt to awaken, to leave fingerprints on the fabric of this reality. But you cannot do that if you're still asking for permission. Stop waiting for a sign, for an apology, for closure. You are the sign. You are the closure. You are the storm and the calm that follows. And yes, it will hurt. Growth always does. Real purpose will cost you everything that isn't real. It will sever your ties to mediocrity. It will excommunicate you from the religion of playing small. It will isolate you from the masses, because the path to becoming cannot be crowded. But in that solitude, something sacred happens. You hear yourself for the first time, beneath the noise, beneath the trauma, beneath the expectations they buried you under. You hear the voice that never died. It only went quiet so you could survive. Now it wants more than survival. It wants revolution. And you are the battlefield. Your mind will rebel. Your body will resist. Your habits will try to seduce you back into comfort. But every time you choose alignment over addiction, vision over validation, creation over consumption, you are winning the war. You are becoming the person your past never believed possible. Because you've stopped trying to fix the old you and started creating the new one. That's the secret. Healing isn't about returning to who you were before the pain. It's about building who you were always meant to be through the pain. The scar is the sculpture. The suffering was the forge. The betrayal was the unveiling. And now you rise. Not clean, not innocent, not untouched, but real. And real is what changes the world. Because nothing is more dangerous to a sick society than a person who has reclaimed their authenticity. Not polished, not filtered, not packaged for comfort, but raw, self-possessed, rooted in something deeper than opinion, trend, or fear. You become immune to manipulation when you no longer crave external validation. That's the true revolution, not louder voices, but freer souls. Souls that refuse to contort themselves into digestible versions of humanity. Souls that no longer apologize for existing in their full, unedited power. They cannot control the soul like that. They cannot sell it back its own worth. They cannot scare it with exile because it's already made peace with being alone if it means being real. You're not here to be liked. You're here to be unforgettable. And unforgettable begins when you start building your life on conviction instead of convenience. That means sacrifice. Not the tragic kind, the sacred kind. The kind that says no to temporary pleasures for the sake of permanent power. The kind that gives up comfort in exchange for character. The kind that knows discipline isn't restriction, it's reverence. Reverence for the future version of you that deserves a foundation, not just fragments. And yes, it will feel like death at times, because it is. You are dying to the lies, to the illusions, to the addiction of being understood by people who were never meant to understand you. You are dying to the stories that made you smaller, quieter, easier to digest. And from that death comes the rebirth. You've heard the phrase, the phoenix rises from the ashes. What they never said is that the fire is your own choosing, that no one lights that match for you. You burn when you're ready to become. But becoming is not pretty. It's not romantic. It's bloody. It's brutal. It's a spiritual exorcism of everything that no longer belongs. But it's worth it. Because on the other side of that death, you begin to recognize something holy. You were never broken. You were buried. And now the dirt is falling off. Now the roots are breaking through. Now the world has to reckon with a version of you that answers to no one but truth. And truth doesn't flinch. It doesn't stutter. It doesn't dilute itself to fit into the room. It walks in and shifts the frequency. That's you now. The frequency shift. The glitch in the matrix of mediocrity. The interruption to generational cycles of self-abandonment. But don't stop here. This is just the ignition. The purpose of fire is not to glow, it's to spread. So go, ignite others, not by preaching, not by persuading, by embodying. Let your life be the evidence that reinvention is not only possible, it's inevitable for those who choose it. And in that embodiment, you find the final truth. You never needed to be perfect. You only needed to be honest. And your honesty, your brutal, beautiful, untamed honesty is what will set you and everyone around you free. This is not the end. This is where your story truly begins. And this story, it won't be written in ink, but in blood, sweat, and every sacred choice to not betray yourself again. You are no longer the passenger in a vehicle driven by history. You are the architect of breath, of battle, of becoming, because here's the final fracture. The illusion that you are still the same person who first felt the wound. You're not. That version of you didn't know the strength hidden behind collapse. That version didn't know how much power there is in being broken open. But you know now. You've seen behind the curtain. You've met the demon in the mirror and you didn't run. You stared it down, unmoved, until it revealed the one thing it was hiding. Your fire. The same fire the world told you to tame. The same fire they shamed into silence. The same fire they labeled too much, too intense, too angry. Not because it was wrong, but because it was real. And what is real can't be controlled. It can only be confronted. That's what your life becomes now. A confrontation with mediocrity, with legacy, with every thought that tries to convince you that your role is to endure, not evolve. But you didn't come here to endure. You came here to ignite, to walk with the ghosts of your former selves and whisper, "Thank you for surviving, but I've got it from here." You came to transcend, not as some spiritual escape, but as a declaration that this moment is holy. This body is sacred, and this life, despite every scar, is still yours. Because power doesn't come from forgetting your past. It comes from owning it without being owned by it. You are not here to pretend the pain didn't happen. You are here to declare that it happened and you still rose. That is your legacy. Not the fall, not the failure, not the silence. The rising again and again and again until one day your name becomes a frequency. A story others tell when they need to remember who they are. You become the myth that reminds the wounded that they are still worthy. You become the moment the future changed, not because someone saved you, but because you saved yourself. And now, this is the moment where there's no turning back. No more tug of war between who you were and who is rising from within. No more mourning the masks you once wore, just to be loved, accepted, allowed to exist. You don't need them anymore, because you've remembered who you are. Not a victim, not a survivor, not a side character in someone else's script. You are the author rewriting fate in blood, tears, and an unshakable will. You are the living answer to generations buried in silence. You are the roar of a soul that refused to die quietly. Take one last look, not to return, but to smile at the one you used to be, the one who endured, who tolerated, who broke, but never truly surrendered. Then turn forward, where there are no paths, no templates, only you, raw, blazing, so real that the world won't know what to do with you. And walk, not for them, not to prove anything, but to live as the soul you were always meant to be. Because deep inside, it's been whispering all along. You've always been enough. Now go and become. Close the old chapter. Begin the legend.